Your story isn't over. The middle of a story is the worst place to decide how it ends. There is a particular danger that arises during long, hard seasons. It is not the difficulty itself. Difficulty, as painful as it is, can be endured. The danger is quieter and more insidious. It is the moment when the difficulty stops feeling temporary and starts feeling permanent, when the hard chapter stops feeling like a chapter and starts feeling like the whole book. When you begin to believe, somewhere below the level of conscious thought, that where you are right now is where the story ends. I want to speak to that belief this morning, not with empty reassurance, not with a promise I cannot keep that everything will turn out, but with something I think is genuinely and carefully true. You are in the middle of your story, not the end. The problem with reading from the middle. Imagine picking up a novel and opening it directly to the middle. No cover, no beginning, no sense of where it started or where it is going. You would find yourself in a scene that makes little sense without context. Characters in crisis. Things are falling apart in ways that seem irreversible, the narrative at its most tangled, most uncertain, and most devoid of visible resolution. And if someone asked you to judge the story from that page alone to decide whether it was worth finishing, whether the characters would find their way, and whether there was any reason to keep reading, you would have almost nothing to go on. That is the position you are in right now. You are reading your life in the middle of a difficult chapter, and the middle of a difficult chapter is the worst possible place to decide how the story ends. The middle looks different from the end. It always does. What reads as a collapse in the middle often reads as a turning point when viewed from further along. What feels like pure loss in the middle sometimes turns out, in ways invisible at the time, to have been a necessary clearing. What middles feel like. Middles aren't glamorous. There's a reason we don't celebrate them. The beginning of a story has energy and possibility. The end, even a hard one, brings the relief of resolution. But the middle is where the work actually happens, in the least comfortable conditions, with the least visibility and the least certainty about whether any of it is leading anywhere. The middle is where you are tired of the problem, but the problem is not yet tired of you. It is where the initial momentum has worn off and the resolution has not yet arrived. It is where you have carried the weight long enough that your arms ache, yet you cannot yet see where to set it down. That is an honest description of where you may be right now. If it is, if this morning finds you somewhere in the long, unglamorous middle, I want you to hear this. Middles are not the end. They are the necessary passage between what was and what will be. They are where the story earns its ending. The pages still unwritten. Some pages in your story are still unwritten. I mean this plainly, not poetically. In future mornings, you cannot see from here. Conversations that have not yet happened with people you may not have met. Versions of yourself that are still forming, still becoming, still being shaped by the very difficulties you are moving through right now. You do not know what those pages hold. That uncertainty can feel frightening, and on the hardest mornings, it does. But if you can hold it even slightly differently, it is also something else. It is open. The pages are genuinely open. Nothing has been decided yet about what they will contain. The story is not over because it is still being written. And you, your choices, your persistence, your willingness to stay in the narrative even on the mornings when it makes no sense, you are part of what writes it. Not the only part, not fully in control, but a real part, a part that matters. A part whose presence on these difficult middle pages will be felt in ways both large and small, in whatever pages come next. The characters who almost left the story. Think of the people in your life, or those throughout history, or in the stories that have moved you most who came closest to giving up in the middle. The ones who were furthest down before they began to find their way. The ones whose lowest point looked, from the inside, like an ending but turned out to be the hinge on which everything turned. The ones who stayed in the story one day longer than they thought they could, then one day longer than that, then one day longer again, until somehow the middle became something else entirely. Those are the stories that last. Not because they were easy, but because the person in them refused, even in the worst of the middle, to let the middle have the last word. You are one of those people, caught in a challenging chapter of your story. Just because things are tough now doesn't mean they'll end badly. It simply means you're in the most demanding part. The fact that you're still here shows you haven't let this middle section define the end. This morning is on one page in a story that is longer than this chapter, deeper than this difficulty, and not yet finished. You do not have to see the whole arc from here. You only have to live this page well, honestly, as fully as you can, with whatever you have available right now. The rest of the story is still being written, and it needs you in it. You are not at the end. You are in the middle, where the most important things happen.